get to sleep that night till the morning came around. Set out running, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. I get home before daylight, just might get some sleep tonight.
Good morning, fellow Formites. Florida Rider coming to you here from Pine Mountain, Georgia. Me and Mr. Tattoo here are hiking the Pine Mountain Trail for the first time. It was recommended to me by several of the folks on the forums when I wanted to find something as close to Gainesville as I could find that actually had some decent elevation change to it. This gets up to, what was it? It was 13,000 feet, or sorry, 1,300 feet, somewhere in that range. And goes up and down probably, you know, 200 or 300 feet along the trail and switchbacks and such. And we're gonna do a quick 10-mile loop out, an overnighter, and then a 10-mile loop back. Should be an interesting time. And I'll catch up with you on down the trail. Mr. Tattoo and I here just stopped for our first break for the day, about 2 miles in on the Pine Mountain Trail. Had to stop for a snack because both of us were getting a bit peckish, and it has been absolutely beautiful out here so far. It's only about 80 degrees. Terrain isn't terrible, although the rocks are a bit more than I'm used to. And we're hiking on to the Beach Bottom campsite today. Should be about 10.5, maybe 11 miles in today. And by all accounts, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm gonna have to deal with a deadfall up here in just a moment. So I'll get back to you folks later.
My dear boy, for I hope to see you next year again. Fare you well, fare you well, fare you well.
We just finished lunch at about the 4-mile mark on the Pine Mountain Trail at the actual Pine Mountain office. Due to some scheduling changes that we decided upon, we're actually going to wind up spending the evening at the, Broken Pine campsite? Broken Pine campsite, which apparently is much smaller than the Beach Bottom campsite. And I'm trying out the new DIY Rafe Nuke poncho system here. Decided to give it a try because the weather was coming down. It was a little bit damp and I was getting a little chilly, and it's working out just fine. Anyway, I'll see you folks up the trail. Good morning, fellow Formites. Florida Rider here, coming to you from camp here in Pine Mountain, Georgia. We decided to make a short trip yesterday because we weren't feeling all that great. Very, very, very long day for both of us. We were coming up on 30 hours awake, and we had the busiest day at work ever last night for me. So we decided to make it a short trip and only do about 5.5 miles out to Broken Tree campsite here in Pine Mountain, Georgia. Last night it poured rain from about 11 o'clock at night to about 4 in the morning. I mean, to the point where I had a torrent coming off of this tarp right here that was the size of my palm. As you can tell perhaps from the angle you're looking at this, there was a stream underneath my hammock all the way down. And I thought that my new minimalist ASIM tarp here was going to get me wet. I woke up with splashback coming off of the ground right here. There's a hole almost dug into the ground underneath my hammock here. So I dropped the tarp out of porch mode and into storm mode on my entry side, on the right hand side here. And because this was no longer the low point on the tarp, it went away. And I stayed bone dry all night. I wouldn't want to be out in driving wind with this tarp, but I'm surprised how dry I stayed. I didn't get wet at all after that. I'm happy with the new spreader bar concept that I am using for my netting over here. This goes across the rib line and keeps the netting off of my face. It helps when it's actually under tension from the Velcro on this side. I didn't get a chance to try it out last night, but I have my new 1.1 poncho here, and it has Omni tape down the sides, so it can attach, instead of the netting, to the bottom here as a Garlington insulator and a weather shield, because I always have a space blanket with me just in case. As of right now, I'm really happy with most of this DIY setup. Mr. Tattoo stayed under his new tadpole tarp this weekend and stayed absolutely dry in that pouring rain we had last night. The only issue he had at all was the sides were pretty close to his hammock, so he'd occasionally brush it with a foot, which is kind of the price you pay with a small hex tarp like that. It's worth getting a pull-out on either side for that. Aside from that, both of our deer performed admirably. No major deer failures. I'm actually pretty happy with going a size up in these shoes. These are the new version of the Keen knockoff sandals that Walmart sells. I went a size up in them, and they have not given me blisters, although we only did 5 miles yesterday, so it's not a real test of it. It didn't feel like I had any hot spots either. Seemed to work out. My filter worked a lot better on this trip because I pre-filtered with a bandana. I didn't have any noticeable slowdown with it. And wood stove. Thank you, WV, for the trick of drying out your wood the night before over the coals of your wood stove so that you have some in the morning. I didn't bring an alcohol stove this trip, which wouldn't have been a major failure because Mr. Tattoo did bring his. But because of the rain last night, there is no way in heck I would have had dry wood this morning if I hadn't have dried it out and shoved it in a stuff sack for the morning. Because of that, I have coffee from the hammock. Anyway, this is Florida Rider signing off for now, and I'll catch y'all up the trail. Florida Rider here, coming to you from Dowdle's Knob in FDR State Park. We exited the Pine Mountain Trail a little bit early. Mr. Tattoo was having a bit of a trouble with an intestinal bug that he had, so I dropped him off at one of the trail crossings and ran the road back to the car. But on the way out, we decided to stop at Dowdle Knob because it's easy, you can drive right up, and it has this view right here. I know you can't see much for the heat haze on my camera. I can. And despite it being in the mid-80s, probably low 90s out here, it is absolutely gorgeous up here. This was a great trip. I had a lot of fun. I learned that my cardio training is definitely paying off. I would like to come back and thru hike this at some point. Anyway, this is Florida Rider signing off from Pine Mountain, Georgia.